And it's really like putting a puzzle together where, trying to understand and take all of the founder's pieces, but then make it make sense into something that the developer can build, takes a skill not only of just technical organization or overseeing a tech team. In some cases, the founder themselves, has certain things that they're thinking about or not thinking about that are preventing them from moving forward.
Hello, hello, and welcome to a new episode of Christina's Room Business Podcast. And today we have a very interesting guest. He is a very, very important piece, especially for a startup, tech startup, or where we have non-technical founders, because today's guest is Irvin, and he is an app architect. I'm very happy to have you on my show, Eddie.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much, Christina.
And what we will talk today, it will be also very revealing to me because I want to understand exactly your functions and how people can
Yeah,
utilize people like you,
yeah.
especially that I was a non-technical founder in an AI company. And so I can
Hmm,
understand
cool.
also the views from if you have a CTO, you don't have a CTO. So let's just start here. Where do you find yourself the most useful?
That's a great question. Thank you. So ultimately, where I find I'm the most helpful is when founders come to me with this vision. They have this idea. They know they have it through and through in their mind, but they haven't really gotten it out into technical documentation, into a solid plan that the developers can build. And so ultimately, what I do with them is spend a lot of time helping them get the vision out, pulling the vision out, asking lots of good questions to clarify, and also helping figure out what road is better, this road or that road for all those little decisions that, can go into building a big product. And so helping them really just get clear, extremely clear, and in writing what it is that they want to build so that then when they go into development, they can also get quotes from lots of different teams easily because they've got this document that says exactly what they need. But then when they get it built, they're not going around in circles with the developer playing an expensive game of telephone. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Can you build it differently? Oh, that's not what I meant. Can you build it again? We avoid all that by being just super clear from the beginning.
So it's perfect to have you at the beginning of a process. Let's say a startup has an idea. It's a tech startup, and maybe there are two co-founders. And I'm curious, even if one of them is a CTO, it's a technical founder, and the other is not, it's still a good idea to have a discussion with you. And if yes, why?
That's a great question too. So I would say that most often the main people that I'm helping are non-technical and they typically don't have a CTO. Now there is some kind of an extra layer that I help with, and that's a marketing layer. So I spent a few years, really digging in and understanding marketing and helping people set up systems to be able to consistently bring people over from social media into their, to sign up for the thing or to book a call or whatever it is. And so I learned the whole flow for how to get attention consistently with ads. And so the idea is that it's not just a technical problem that people have when they're trying to first build something, even though that can feel all encompassing. How are we going to get this thing to work? And it's so technical and there's all these details. But really, what happens once you get past that, and let's say the thing works, it works great, you're so proud of it. Now you've got a people problem. So now it's okay, well, where are the people? How are the people going to be flowing into this thing? And really, ultimately, that kind of discussion needs to happen right at the very beginning. There's been too many stories and too many people that have gone through and spent a lot of money to build something only to realize later that maybe those people over there don't really want it, or it's not the right thing, or maybe it's too costly to be able to bring them into the system. So by taking a look at that stuff from the beginning, it's more of like a business development layer that we talk about, and really getting clear about, where's the money coming in and how is this all going to work, so that once you get it built, that you could actually have success, and you're not realizing later, too late, that you actually built the wrong thing. So, more often than not, if people already have a CTO, typically they've got the technical thing, all set or mostly set and they're happy to move forward. But the extra thing that I love to do on top is to really have that business discussion and the marketing discussion so that they don't run that risk later of actually, having built the wrong thing.
I was thinking about this because, even if you have a CTO, especially if you're a one first-time founder, and I love, by the way, your storytelling skills. This just helps a lot with my audience and to understand what you're doing and those who are wondering what to do with apps. So my question came from CTOs who are technical, but also they don't have a startup experience. In the
Mm.
meantime, you are an architect who worked with so many startups, so you do have that kind of background where you saw that this kind of blueprint, creating this kind of app can be very costly. It doesn't serve as much the right type of investing from the company at this stage with that level of money, or that bringing in teams from outside is a better solution than just growing someone inside, or getting a developer inside is much better than just hiring, outsourcing your initial development efforts. So that's why I was asking. Maybe here you could be more like a expert consultant next to the CTO to just bring more efficiency around their planning and ideas for the next 12
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I'm just realizing that everybody's got their own skill set, and that comes from all of their experiences and the way that their brain works ultimately, and the type of information that they pay attention to, right? So the idea of, a CTO, certainly there's going to be a lot of overlap from one CTO to another, but they're all going to have their own specific experiences or their ways of thinking about things. And I think that one main thing that a CTO may not have, or certain people, as we're all different, um, that I do, or that kind of separates me, is that I'm so detail oriented in looking for miscommunication and trying to figure out and kind of look ahead for what could go wrong or what could be miscommunicated. So the idea is that as you are heading into development, you are kind of transfer this idea of what you want into somebody else's mind, the developer's mind, at which point then they actually start typing it out or organizing it, right? So if you can get that vision across to them as well as you possibly can, then they're going to be able to be good to take it from there. But that main connection from you just telling them what it is that needs to be done, there are so many ways that that can go wrong. And ultimately, I find that the main reason why I started this business is mostly because of miscommunication. That people, they'll initially ask for something or want something because they have a feeling, oh, this is the direction we should be going. But then when we really start fleshing it out, there's a problem here, or this thing doesn't fit. And it's really like putting a puzzle together where, trying to understand and take all of the founder's pieces, but then make it make sense into something that the developer can build, takes a skill not only of just technical organization or overseeing a tech team. In some cases, the founder themselves, has certain things that they're thinking about or not thinking about that are preventing them from moving forward. So to give you a small insight here, the idea is that we all have mindset issues as business owners. There's always certain ways that we think about the world that prevent us from success or that limit our success. And in working on my own mindset issues and working through my own mindset issues, I can now spot when other founders are dealing with the same sort of thing. And so I'm speaking into not only hey, this is how it technically needs to be built, but if they've got to make a decision and they're being too perfectionistic or doing other things that are slowing growth, I'm able to speak into that as well. So it's not just a technical discussion, although that's a huge part of it. There's these other pieces about mindset and where they could be holding themselves back, or the marketing stuff and business development stuff, that really helps make it kind of a more well-rounded product. So when you get to the end, you've thought about that stuff and you're not discovering those big problems too far down the road.
You are a great advocate for what I preach for a long time, about remote communication, especially that I helped and I created and also was at the basics to create systems around remote work for companies, for around 12 years now.
Mm.
And over communication in a remote setting is so, so important.
Oh yeah.
And what I've noticed from what you said is this focus on communication and what can happen if you miscommunicate. And most CTOs are very technical type of personalities. You do have both, and this can be an extra advantage for you to translate technical but also have that people-centric approach,
Yeah.
because you are talking like a coach and I'm a coach, and I can
Yeah.
notice this kind of thing. Coaches are just diminish the time spent to get to your goal. Your goal could be reached in 10 years, but if you have a
Mm.
right helper who sees things you don't see anymore from your own fixed mindset or blocked with your own vision, then you can just simplify things and have it all in 1 year or less if you do have those kind of helpers next to you.
Yep.
And this is what I've noticed. So this could be something extra. Do you take fractional CTO roles as well?
Yes, yeah. So once we get past the planning part and the dev team is onboarded, sometimes the founder wants help to be able to connect with the dev team ultimately and interact with the dev team. Sometimes just checking up and making sure we're on the right track. Sometimes I'm acting as a developer translator, so the developer comes with specific questions or how should we do this or that. And then I'll basically try to bring that decision back to the founder. Certainly, I can make decisions by myself, of course, and people do need to be able to move forward in that regard as well. But what I find is that the founder really appreciates sometimes really starting to understand what's going on. Not everything, because they have to focus on other things, but being able to bring some decisions and saying, hey, if you go this road, here's what it means for you, here's where you're going to be limited. And if you go this way, yeah, it'll be more expensive, but then you'll be able to do this, this, and this. And then they've got handles to be able to understand, like, oh, I could do this or I could do that. And they can at least speak into it as much as they want, at which point maybe some of them will say, I'm good, just make the best decision, you're set. Or I really want to do that because that's important to me to have that ready for version 2 or whatever it is. So it's not just the, interacting with the developer team. I'm not a project manager where I'm just doing that internal work. The idea is to bridge the gap because like you said, there's so much miscommunication that goes between and especially with developers, sometimes it's harder to be social. For some reason, people that are very, very good with code, they tend to be less social and tend to not be as good to explain these technical concepts because it makes so much sense to them, but then they don't realize that it doesn't make sense to the other person. So I really try to make sure that if the founder wants to understand that they can understand and bring a better kind of connection in the communication from the technical to the non-technical.
So you're not just an app architect, but you're also a tech translator.
Yep, developer translator. Yep.
Yeah, and you have this marketing in mind. So having that marketing spectrum where we want to be in 6 months, 12 months, it helps you to focus on maybe development issues that can go wrong if you do have these time specs. And developers are usually very focused on just bringing a feature, let's say.
Right, exactly. So if you want to imagine, it's like taking a plane off the ground. And if you make the plane super, super, super heavy, it's going to be a lot harder to get off the ground. It's going to need a lot longer runway, a lot more gas. And so when you're building a project, every founder has their own vision for how fast they want to get it done, what's important now versus later, things like that. And by first we typically go through kind of two main phases at the beginning. One is this expansion of, hey, we could do all these ideas. It's like a buffet where, oh, there's so many different things we could do. But then time to get back to reality. Let's try to narrow that focus and make sure that we're only building what matters right now while still making sure that we leave the door open for those features in the future. So it's not just, hey, let's get all this information down and then pass it on to the developer and they can build whatever we hire them for. The idea is to be strategic in, yeah, you can build 35 different features, but maybe 5 or 7 are the most important and can't be taken out, and maybe 5 more are important for now, but then everything else can just go on the shelf for later so that you get to market faster. So we do have those discussions as well where, as we get the ideas down and on paper, now we can start really parsing them out and figuring out what makes business sense for now, what makes strategy sense for now. And then the right thing gets built at the very beginning.
What's the best stage to bring you in to the business?
That's a great question. So People come to me with varying levels of uh, of what wherever they're starting. So some people will come to me with just an idea. They'll have fleshed it out for a little while, but they won't really have a ton. Other people will come to me with, a year's worth of research and they've been spending so much time thinking about this idea. And then other people still will come to me with an app that they've already built, but it needs to be updated and expanded, right? Businesses that have already developed software and it's working, it's helpful to them, but it's not everything that it could be. And they know that they're losing profit. They want to gain more profit by updating and expanding their software. So all the way from, I've got nothing, I don't even have a business yet with cash flow, all the way to cash flowing business with software where we've already built version one and we want to build version two. I find that it's a really kind of a wide spectrum of where I can help. And typically it's always just that foundational layer of, hey, where are we today? And then what does success look like to you? When we first start, it's all about getting very clear on where's the finish line because it's all too easy to just have conversations and think about this or think about that. But ultimately, where are we going? What's the point of engaging in the first place? So having that foundational understanding at the very beginning, whether you're starting from scratch or whether you're trying to update a software, is extremely beneficial. And then we know really what we're aiming for, regardless of what they come in with.
You do have comprehensive expertise. You do websites for 20 years and apps for over 10, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that you do have some case studies here about how much money or time you can save for a founder to work with you instead of just trial and error.
Yeah, yeah. So the best story that I've got there and the most recent too is a company where they are already cash flowing. They already built version one of their software and it's really extensive already, but they've got plans for how they can grow and fix from there. And ultimately, before I even signed on the client, we were talking about how much money they could save if the software was updated. And really what we came down to is, hey, if we could update this software, add some functionality and automate some things, we could save six figures a year for this company. So in terms like that, where the company's already running their, multi-million dollar company a year, but they're using software that's not quite up to par, they could potentially save, six figures from redoing certain things, from coming up with better processes and automating certain things that are taking people hours a day. So in that case, over 10 years, that's seven figures saved just from updating software.
Okay. And you are also serving different kind of professionals. Just
Yeah.
switching gears a bit because we can create a case study here with me as a coach. I saw, and you mentioned that you're working also with startups, but also with professionals and also coaches. And today there is a trend, and I'm thinking about creating an app for my coaching services, right?
Cool.
And there are other coaches who are doing this as well. But it's also, I think that it could help the founders who are listening to today because they can see a little bit the process. If a founder, a non-technical founder, wants to start a company, has an idea about the product, doesn't know if it's good to hire someone or just outsource, brings you into the picture, you create this blueprint, right? And
Mhm.
then it will be much more wiser and effective to for the next steps than just without you, let's say. And
Yeah,
translate this in a way that it can be applicable for startup founders as well. But what would you do with me if I would want to have my
sure.
own app as a coach?
Sure. And first of all, I love this exercise. This is fun and it'll be fun to see, what questions come out of this for you and how this helps you kind of think about it. But in terms of in your place where you want a specific app, just for your own business, there's so many different directions to go now, right? So the most expensive direction would be everything custom, every single part of it custom, starting from a blank page to just designing out all the pages, all the UI, all the functionality, and then all custom coded with developers actually typing, in all these different files. That would be the most expensive way that you could go, but then you'd have the most flexibility because you're making something from nothing. You're able to control how that is. And then if you go to the complete opposite side of the spectrum, there's people that have already built
You
coaching
could
apps.
add some numbers also into the equation just for coaches or others
Sure.
to know.
Well, I mean, absolutely a custom app, six figures, For sure. Certainly not reaching the seven figures. You could absolutely get it done for five figures, and in some cases, you could get a custom coded app for under five figures. Although it's difficult if you don't know what you're doing, if you're non-technical, because you have to depend on so many other people to be able to get it done. But yeah, custom coded app. Let's say five figures at least, and then reaching up into six figures, depending on how big you needed it to be. Certainly if you only needed a few tabs and it wasn't going to be this very expansive, enterprise level software, then, five figures, probably low five figures, you could get it done and it'd be fine. And then on the other side of the spectrum, if you want to go, the cheapest, kind of fastest way you could get in the game is that people have already created coaching apps, right? So this idea, this kind of this, I don't exactly know all of your, what you're aiming for, and certainly, I'd love to know more about exactly kind of what you're looking for. But if you can find some pre-built app solution that allows you to white label, then that means with, a monthly payment, maybe of $50, $100, you snap your fingers and you've got an app that now has your name on it, right? So these two totally different sides. Certainly, the problem over here is if you pay somebody else, a monthly figure for something that they've already built. If you want it to be different, if you want to add a little bit of something here, you want to change that flow or whatever else it is, you may not be able to. They may not allow you to do that, right? So over here, we're more limited, but it's much cheaper to get in the game. Whereas you can have everything custom, but then it's super expensive. So could you tell me, for instance, what do you need this app to do? Is this going to have tons of different things going back and forth and you're sending files and this and that? Is it for people to be able to book time with you? Is it for easier communication with you? Or what's the main bullseye of the reason why you want to build this app?
Yeah, good question. I want to simplify everything. So now I'm on a mission to bring as much clarity in simple steps, forms, and having gains in day one. And this is the way I work now. So if I would do an app, I think that I would focus on having a very easy, simple experience where I focus on doing the job. I mean, we have assignments for different kind of reasons that it's personal based on my client needs and issues. So I would want to personalize assignments to create a track record in that app and to have weekly, daily assignments depends, and also some tips and tricks and some videos, helper videos, and also chat for communication inside the app, and maybe a group feature where there is a possibility to communicate other members between each other, but also just as a community feature, let's say.
Got it. Okay, so kind of going along those same lines of, two sides again, where the one side you just kind of dream it up and it could be exactly what you want it to dream, or the other side being you save a ton of money, but you can snap your fingers and have the functionality for pretty cheap. Even something when you say chat and group features and you could have a community, or even, I mean, even personalizing assignments and kind of having tasks and stuff like that. There are some softwares right now that would allow you to do that type of thing, although you'd kind of be cobbling a few things together, but you could have that as a much reduced cost. But if you want to have some certain thing like personalizing assignments, can you clarify that more for me a little bit? So you're talking about like tasks that you would then assign to them, or they would assign to you,
I
or
would
both?
assign to them, of course.
Okay, got it. So you are saying, hey,
And this could be
I'm,
also like if you need to check out the video, and then once you check the video, it's submitted like it's done.
yeah, yeah.
A
Okay,
track
so
record of accountability, basically.
right. Yeah. So in that case where you need somebody to check out a video, you're kind of assigning them one. And if you have a repeatable system, you'd be able to say, hey, step 1 through 10, please take care of that, and then we'll hop on a call or however you do that.
Sure.
You
And
can,
yes, for the onboarding, through onboarding, the first 1, 2 weeks, I can create a pretty much sameness in the system because there are information that will get you prepared, your mind and everything, and we clarify your needs and all the issues that we need to deal with and solve. So
yeah.
yeah, it could be a mix, you know. I'm thinking about open source, taking open source and tweaking a little bit, adjusting to personalize, of course, branding and the assignment design and how it would look like to be as simple and nice also as possible.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cut
yeah.
out some things, add some things like from open source, and someone to put them together. It's like a recipe, creating a very delicious dish.
Yeah, sorry about that. My camera does that every now and again. It just shuts off. There, we're back again. Yes, exactly. Like you said, you just talked about open source and that somebody's already created something close enough, but then you want to be able to take that and modify that. That would be in the middle where it's, you're not just buying the pre-built
Yeah.
solution, but you're also not just starting from scratch. You're pulling, and most developers, even if they're doing custom code, they're going to be pulling from other libraries and finding certain ways to save time. But I could give you an idea. I mean, even the idea of like an onboarding system where you've got certain things that they've got to check off and whatever else, there are so many different ways to do this, right? So, you could even just use a spreadsheet. That'd be one simple way to get going. You could use Asana or one of those other systems. I personally love Telegram, and I've got an app that I built into Telegram. It's like a bot that's like a task management system for me. So I can do a lot of stuff even in that one chat where I can either add new people to my email list, and that's very efficient for me. I can add a regular task, a top priority task. I can do follow up where I type, 14 days, and then I put, what I need to follow up about, and then it'll count down for me. So that I'm basically building my own app on top of Telegram's app by just kind of configuring the routing in the back end. So if you, for instance, if you wanted to do, some sort of onboarding system, you could even consider kind of a stepped approach. So the idea is that you're able to reap the reward of making it more automated while not paying the high cost to actually go through development. And so what I mean by this is, as you're trying to create an onboarding system, and to be honest, I'm actually kind of in the same spot where there's certain things that I want my clients to do before we even meet and things like that. So I'm thinking through this stuff at the very basic level, at the very super simple that anybody could think of. You could literally just go into a spreadsheet, write down all the things, put a checkbox next to it, and then just share it with the person, right? So that's kind of this baseline level of just like there's a system. And for the next person, you could click make a copy, and then there it is again. Now, the reason why I would even suggest doing something so simple is that by going through the act of creating the thing, you actually make the thing better because you refine it. It's not perfect the first time you do it, and it's also not perfect the second time you do it. But once you get maybe the 10th time, 15th, 20th time you go through, it's pretty solid in the way that you would drive a car over the same spot in a field again and again and again, and that rut is created. It's the same thing with software development. And so I use this process for my own software because I see how advantageous this is. That typically when I first build something, I don't build it all the way first. It's not like I have no functionality and it doesn't work at all, and I build everything, and then I cut the ribbon and it's all good. I break it into pieces. So to give you an example, I wanted to automate podcast creation. So I wanted to be able to just speak into my phone and then have that just create the podcast, also create a video for it for social media. And I didn't want to be the person who would have to open up the audio software, the video software to be able to cut it up. So what I did is I connected a system to allow me to upload an audio file to my server. And then I created the first piece of that, which would be to take that and add the front audio on top of it and then mix it down. So like the beginning intro. So even though there's some more steps to it, I only did step 1 to 2, where I can upload something and then it adds the audio. I still had to take the audio and put it into the video software to be able to create the video for it. But then I came back later, about 2 weeks later, I was still using the beginning part. So that did save me some time. It didn't save me a ton of time, but it saved me, 5 minutes or so. And then I started adding the video component where I'm able to type in the name of the podcast and the description. And then it brought that into a software that would make a video out of it. So I didn't do it all at once. I was able to use it. Some was automatic, some was not automatic, but I was still reaping the reward from the part that was automatic. And then all those different segments I was able to make better. So long way around, to get back to your onboarding system, if you started with a spreadsheet, just a very simple baseline spreadsheet, you start putting things in, all of a sudden you're putting in that thought work. What needs to be here? How do I organize this? Are there going to be groups? Am I going to color these things? Is it going to be, step 1, 2, 3, and it's just very linear? Or is it going to be a section here that they've got to do one thing from and a section here they've got to do one thing from? That thought work is the creation of software. That's the main thing that needs to be done. And that's the main thing that if you spend time going over that rut again and again and again with different clients, you're going to have an idea 8 days from now in the middle of the night. You're going to go, oh, I could add if I did that, then it would be better. And then you add a new thing for the next client. And then a few more clients go by, you've got another idea. And so what happens is eventually you get it to a point where you're not adding anything else. It's solid. You have a solid onboarding system. It's not in software yet, but you know that you're asking the right things in the right order. You're organizing things right. You're like, this is good. I'm good with this. Then you can take that and bring that into software. So you see, the idea is that keeping it out of software at the beginning, when you're trying to figure out what it is that you're actually doing, is actually advantageous because you're able to iterate so fast while you're still touching it, while your brain, where you've got the idea, you're the one using it again and again and again, saying, well, that's wrong. I don't like how that looks. This could be better. This could be better. Eventually you start saying, this is good. I like this. I'm good with this. Then you can move that into software. Is this making sense?
Now, this is a good point because I do have an onboarding system. Of course, I create it for others as well. Mine is pretty simple and straightforward. And my question would be exactly what you're saying, because we constantly improve and we don't see it from our own perspective, what would be better. How many things should I automate and how many things I should just left as they are? Because if I create a software, I would want to have the benefit that, okay, we don't use too many diverse tools, and then my clients are very busy that we have communication through WhatsApp, through Signal, or through Telegram, and then we have the spreadsheets, we have the Google Drive, we have everything in place, and then we have a software. So if I would take out some things from the Google suite, let's say, and what we have for onboarding there and put it in the software, it would be easier maybe for them. So my issue is not to just add some extra layer,
Mm.
but what could I cut out from what I have and make it even simpler and clearer through an app?
Yep,
That's my
yep.
issue.
Yeah, so the processing that I would go through there is basically prioritizing by either the amount of money it's costing you or the amount of time, right? So I'm doing that with the specific client that I was talking about before that could save 6 figures a year if we automated the software. If you imagine it as one very long assembly line or maybe multiple different assembly lines, there's going to be spots where the most time is wasted or the biggest money is falling out or maybe even just something you just don't want to do, right? If there's of the 15 different things you've got to do, maybe there's one where you're like, I would just love to never do that again ever again, right? So it's prioritizing, it's taking a look at all these different things that could be automated and then ordering them by this is wasting the most time. So you're just thinking about, monetary benefits to the business of just running more efficiently. Or, this one is the most annoying for me. I don't like doing this one. And then you're just basically prioritizing, your own happiness and just not having to do that one annoying task. But whatever it is, you start prioritizing because you don't want to do them all at once. And in fact, I would suggest to not do them all at once. But if you're going to start kind of dipping your toes into trying to get software developed, the point that I want to make here is that you don't necessarily have to build the whole big mega system in order for it to make sense or in order to make your business run more efficiently or be a little bit better. That even if you could save, 30 minutes a week, but every single week, that is a huge amount of money over a long period of time. So if you're thinking about, yes, you've got all these different things all over the place, basically what I would be doing is parsing all those out, right? I'd be going through with you and really clarifying out, okay, give me a picture of all these different things you're doing. And the whole point of that, first of all, is to see these pieces on the table and then be able to ascribe either a dollar amount that you're losing every single week because of the time you're taking to do it, or just the general annoyance factor. And then from there, now you've got a prioritized list of, one, two, three things, maybe five at the very top of your list that are like, hey, if I'm going to fix anything, these are the things that I'm going to fix. And even by fixing just those only and leaving the rest of it, that you're still running at a higher efficiency and you're better for it. At which point then, 6 months down the road, you say, I'll take another crack at it. You do the same sort of thing where you take a look at what it is. And maybe that whole focus, the long-term focus is to bring you into one system where you can do everything, but you don't have to do it as this one big gulp. It could be this idea of even just by saving yourself 30 minutes a week, all of a sudden you're running a little bit faster as a business. You're a little bit more efficient. And then 6 months from now, save yourself an hour a week. And eventually over time, with this idea of iteration and improvement of the business, you just make your machine run faster and faster and faster, which really then you could take out of the business in terms of just time for yourself or more throughput. More clients can come in because the onboarding, instead of how long, like for onboarding, for instance, how much time would you say that that takes you if you're onboarding somebody new into your business? Can you give me any sort of idea on like the time it takes you just for that one piece of it?
Yeah, 1, 2 weeks.
1 or 2 weeks, and how much time in certain if it's okay to ask in terms of like you actually having to do certain things, like is that process, what I'm trying to say is that process already automated enough that you don't need it to be automated further, or are you still kind of investing yourself a little bit too much in that, but you're thinking I could probably have this be more automatic?
Yeah, it could be a little bit. I have an assistant, so once I have a new client, there are some processes that are done. Basically, it can be done in one day, in the same day, with the help of one assistant, but still, there could be some extra automation as well.
Yeah, yeah. So really, parsing through those different things and looking at the whole picture and then trying to prioritize, that's my next target because I'm really wasting too much time here. You might also consider too, and I don't know what this is like for you, but if you're onboarding somebody and they need to send you information, certainly some time is wasted in just reaching out, hey, can you get that to me? Or like, hey, I need that thing. And you could even have automation systems for that where if the system can see the checkbox and knows that they're not done, then every single, 2 days or a week or whatever it is, the system could reach out on your behalf automatically to ask for those things. So it's like, it's not even just the fact that you're spending time with onboarding. It could also be these reminders or wherever you're spending time in your business, taking a holistic look at that and breaking it down and prioritizing by where the most money is being lost or where the most time is being lost
So yeah.
or where the most annoying tasks are. That helps prioritize and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are favoring tests, little tests without not without no big changes, just to see what works
Oh,
better for you, and also to make sure that you don't create a huge system for yourself without knowing that this is necessary or not.
well, let me be clear. There's lots of different types of software that I work on, right? So in the case of, a business where they've got, tons of different processes and assembly lines that are trying to basically automate those things, certainly they can plan out the entire thing and this whole big mega project and do that whole thing. That's fine. You can do that. But if instead of that, you take a look at the whole big system, which you do have to look at everything to kind of see the picture and make sure you're not going to build something down here that's going to interfere with something over there. But in terms of just getting the ball rolling faster and making the system more efficient more quickly, that's where I'm talking about the small tasks. Where if a company has, let's say 37 different things that they need to fix, you could take that whole thing of 37 things and then plan out all of that and then go into development with all of that and then eventually end up with all of it done. Or you could see the whole picture and then realize that this one piece by itself could save your team 5 hours a week consistently for the rest of the life of your business and just rip that piece off and then start moving into development just with that one piece. Because here's what happens with big complicated software. If there's too many things happening, it's like somebody's juggling and somebody keeps throwing in more balls to juggle. And it ends up being very, very difficult where there's so many things going on that even the person asking for it, the founder, can't keep track of everything that's going on. And going back to the beginning of this conversation, miscommunication is what breaks when people are trying to get something built. So if they're leaning into development, if they haven't established that connection with the developer where they know they ask the developer for something and the developer clearly does it, does a great job, and then communicates back that they did it, until they have that, it's good to just kind of creep out into the ice. Is the development team competent? Are they good communicators? Are they going to do the work fast? Are they going to listen and to make sure that they're paying attention to every single piece of the detail? Those questions at the very beginning of a project are super important to figure out because more often than not, people will, well, I don't want to say more often than not. I want to have more optimism than that. People, a lot of the time, people will start working with a dev team and realize too late that the communication is bad or they didn't pay attention to all the details and now something's broken or whatever it is. And so by having that tiny focus, even though if you want to build a big software, I understand, makes sense, and that's the best thing to do. But all I'm talking about is the very beginning of the period when you start building, it's good to really focus down and make sure that that line is connected and you're getting that back and forth from both sides. At which point, then when you add more things to the plate, now it expands because you know that that back and forth is happening.
Now, based on what you said, who's your favorite client?
Who's my favorite client? Oh, that's a great question. Um, my first thought is that every different client challenges me in a different way. Certainly some work is better than others in terms of just, general enjoyment. But even with some clients that I really enjoy doing some things for them, they've got some other things that are more difficult or that are maybe not as fun. So instead of saying, which client is my favorite, the idea of being able to do lots of different things and really be able to speak into the bigger system as a whole and speak about the marketing and not just be limited to one piece of it is something that I love the most. That I can be able to speak into the marketing part, while we're talking about the technical part, because it helps make a more well-rounded product. And so when clients are open to that and when they understand the benefit of thinking about marketing right at the very beginning, and in some cases actually beginning marketing before they actually start building the thing to make sure they're in the right place, to make sure that they know their cost of acquisition or at least their cost of getting a lead, that makes my heart sing because I realize that they get it and I realize that they understand that if they can kind of make all these things happen at the same time, that it's really going to be beneficial for them. That if they're kind of reaching into the marketing and they're okay with marketing a little bit as they're reaching into the technical, that both of those sides really, really feed off each other and it helps them build a better product and even plan a better product because they're in touch with their potential customers. So it's sorry, that was a really long answer, but the idea is that the clients that give me the ability to speak into kind of a more holistic view of what it is that they're doing are my favorite.
Okay. By the way, I need to add here a little bit of promo because you mentioned podcasting, and I did had a guest before, and I suggest you to try out Rumble Studio, and they are the first podcasters async podcasting, and they just had, and it's still unrevealing. Challenge 100 podcasts in 10 days, and they are now running all those podcasts one by one each day, and this is exactly what you need to create systems and automated questions and just send them out and so forth. It's absolutely awesome. I tried it out and I can also see functions not just for companies to create their podcast without so much headache because everything is async and it can be automated very nicely and you can have as many guests, but also for research reasons and even just gathering a lot of cool data. So Rumble
Yeah.
Studio, check it out for yourself.
I just
And
went to the website now. I love that. I'm gonna dig in and I'm gonna see what they're doing. That sounds super cool.
they just had huge growth during the last month, so people start to get to this,
Hmm.
and it's a perfect growth stage for them right now. I'm very happy.
Yeah,
And is there something we didn't cover and you think it's important when it comes to app creation?
that's a great question as well. Um, Maybe a little bit more the marketing side. So I spoke about this a little bit before, but the idea of making sure that you're in touch with your potential client and or customer and having conversations with them, really understanding where they're coming at is so important. And I find that I don't know why this happens, but some of it is likely out of fear, but founders sometimes isolate and they stay in their own vision and they're afraid that their idea is going to get stolen, so they're not sending it out to the world early and they isolate. And I think that this is detrimental. And I understand why. I understand why. You don't want your idea to be stolen. But I think that too often the fear that is blocking them from reaching out to other people and having those kind of conversations that could help them so much in building a better product. They don't do it because of the fear. So every time I see this with somebody new where, they're afraid their idea is going to get stolen and they're afraid and they're afraid, I certainly see that I've got a lot of fear driving and I'm working on that. It's a part of the mindset issues to try to figure out how to let go of that fear and move through even though there's fear. But I find that if entrepreneurs have too much fear, they don't take enough risk and they don't make enough decisions fast enough. And it's almost really what it is it's a foot on the pedal, the gas pedal to move forward, and it's also a foot on the brake at the same time. And so if you've got that, and if you're playing that way, you can move forward a little bit, but it's not anywhere near as good as if you can take that foot off and you can off the brake and be able to talk to people that might want your software. That as you do that, and the more conversations you have, you're not only making your software better and getting out of your head and realizing how they see it, but you're also building your potential customer base. So I really encourage anybody who wants to build an app to not be isolating out of fear and think about what the good could happen as they reach out to different people and have conversations with lots of different people as they're building. Can be extremely advantageous and actually helps you build a better product.
Awesome. I love that. And now, before my last question, show us a little bit, Eddie, your personal side, maybe a hobby of yours or something others don't know about you, or maybe because I saw your Instagram, you want to sing a little bit.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, what do you want me to sing? Do you want me to sing something? I
Yeah,
can
just
probably
show
sing the
your.
song from the Instagram. If you are trying to build an app, then plan it out right now. Because you try to plan and you don't do the work and you don't do the thing, and then the developer builds the wrong thing, and then you're going around in circles and then you're spending all the money. You're gonna be real sad.
Bravo.
Plan your
This is
apps, people. Plan your apps out.
great. This is something you just had at one moment because it's your song, obviously, right?
Yep. Yep.
Any acoustics, a guitar next to it or something do you
I
play?
don't have a guitar. I do play
What do you
guitar, but my
play? So you play guitar, another hobby.
yeah, my
Awesome.
piano. I played piano since I was 5, and then picked up guitar in high school. But yeah, I love music. Music's good. Music's fantastic.
Super. I love that. And this is so important for us today to show our personal part
Sweet.
also, not just business, business, business. Ready for my
Thank
last
you.
question?
Yes, I am.
So I am your genie, and if I give you all the influence and money in the world, what would you do with it?
Oh, I love that question. I know that I can't answer this perfectly, but there's certainly a piece of it that can answer. I want to build a a system just like PBS Kids, where basically it's children's educational content, books and videos and fun stuff. Where ultimately also in working with my kids and helping their creativity, I want to celebrate the creativity of kids, and I also love making stuff that's just fun and is in the world of imagination. So if you gave me a ton of money and a ton of time,
And
that's what I'd be
influence.
spending more time and influence. Yeah, that's what I'd be spending time with is working with other creatives to build really cool educational kids content that really is imaginative and fun and and quirky and be able to teach kids at the same time making something really fun.
So you would bring happiness through creativity.
Exactly, 100%. Yep.
Super. Where can people find you?
So the website is saplaybook.com, but the best place to find me is really on Instagram at saplaybook.
Awesome. Thank you. This was a great conversation.
It was great to chat. Thank you so much, Christina.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.